Hey everyone, happy Monday. All right, so this morning we are going to talk about the card that I pulled for our Monday card pull, and then we're going to discuss this card. Like I said, same kind of thing that we did last week. We'll discuss this card and this verse, throughout the week. Okay, so we'll kind of do it a little bit different than last week. I'm just kind of playing around with it. So I'll wait for some people to hop on. And as you guys can see, I've had to move my live streams inside because where I am, it's very rainy and kind of chilly outside today. So we're back inside. Hopefully later in the week, I'll be able to get back outside. All right. So I'm just trying to also kind of watch my computer here a little bit, so I can kind of watch Facebook on there and then comment if I need to, because I'm not sure if I can do that through my phone. But all right, so I'll give everybody like another minute, and then we'll get started. Okay. Okay, everyone. All right, so once again, happy Monday. We're going to be talking about the card that I posted in our group, Love Yourself, Love Your Life. We're going to discuss this card today, a little bit more tomorrow. There were two specific things that when I was going over this card kind of jumped out at me, so I thought they were really important to talk about today. And then we'll go over a little bit more in depth about this card tomorrow. So I know last week we had two cards. That was just because, like I said, when I was shuffling the cards, an extra one kind of popped out, and sometimes that happens. This week that did not happen. So we're just going to go with one card this week, and this is the one we'll be talking about, okay? Excuse me. Okay, so this is the card that we pulled, right? And this is from Matthew 25:21. And on here it says, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." So there's a little bit more to this card than just says on here. And I always recommend to you guys to kind of take a couple minutes and look at the photo that's on the card, because that can really sometimes bring up some stuff for people, and that's important to know. Okay, so this specific verse on this card is part of a much longer parable, which I will post in the group as I did last week, the longer version. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I am going to read to you the actual full verse. Let me see here. 25:21. Okay, so this is the actual full verse of Matthew 25:21. His Lord said unto him, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord." So that's the entire verse. Okay, so this verse is actually from a parable. Okay, and like I said, it's kind of long, so I'll post that in the group, but it's actually the parable of the talents. So I don't know if anybody's heard of that before, but I think it's important to not just give the meaning of what this specific sentence could be, but kind of the background and the story of where it came from. So I will quickly kind of tell you guys what that parable is about. So once again, that was, let me see, I'm going to give you the whole numbers. So it's the full thing is from Matthew 25:14 through 30. And like I said, I will post this entire thing, so if you want to read it, you can. But this is kind of the gist. So the parable of the talents says that there was a man, and he was traveling into a far a faraway country. And as he was traveling, he gathered some servants along with him. So he gathered 3 servants. And the first one he gave 5 talents to, meaning that he taught him different things from his own knowledge. So he gave him 5 talents. He gave the next servant 2 talents, and to the last servant he gave 1. So as they continued along their journey together, the servant that was given 5 talents really used them and expressed them. He worked really hard, and he ended up gaining 5 more talents. And this is the same thing that the servant that was given 2 talents did the same thing. He really, practiced what he was taught. He worked really hard, and he gained another 2 talents. So the last servant that was only given 1, he did not exercise what he was taught at all. And he actually stated that he ended up getting scared of some things, and he ended up, what they said, that he dug up the earth and he hid his talent, and he hid the money of his Lord. And by Lord, we don't mean, God. This was the man that had hired him as the servant, if you will. So he did not do anything with his talent. So the Lord was very happy and commended the first 2 servants. He rewarded them, as we just read. He rewarded them by giving them rule over some things because of their faithfulness. So he was very happy about that. As for the 3rd servant, like I said, he didn't do anything with his talent. And it's not that he did anything bad or wrong, but he just didn't do anything with it, right? So this is kind of the same as when people are given talents from God and we don't exercise them. We don't try to find them. If we know what our talents are, we just don't do anything with them, right? And so that's kind of being a little irresponsible with why God put you on this earth, right? So I know some people say, oh, well, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what my talents are, anything like that. But if that's how you're feeling, then at that moment in your life, it's your job to try to navigate through and try to find what your talents are, right? Because there's a difference between being actively trying to figure out what your talents are versus not doing anything with them at all, right? So we're kind of going against the reason why God put us here, right? So if you choose to do nothing with your life, then you're choosing to reap no spiritual benefits, right? And you're choosing to just move further away from God. So that's your choice. So that's kind of the story of the parable of the talents. Are you going to, take what you've learned? Are you going to try to learn things and take that knowledge to learn more, right? Or are you going to take what you know and do absolutely nothing with it to help yourself or to help anyone else? And that is your choice, okay? That is your choice. So that's kind of the story behind this card as a whole. And like I said, I think it's important for us to talk about the entire thing, not just about what this one sentence means, because even though you think you might know what this means, it could bring a different kind of meaning if you know the entire story behind it. Okay? So that's the parable of the talents. So, with that, the first thing that jumped out at me, is this idea of being responsible. So are you a responsible person of faith, right? So, let's just ask yourself, do you consider yourself a person of faith, right? So if you do, which I'm sure most people in this group would, then it is your responsibility to be just that, to be faithful, right? And that was like the big message that I personally got after reading this story. So therefore, one could argue that if a person of faith was not being faithful, that you're being irresponsible in some way, right? So that's not living like we talk about in this spiritual mindset, in this idea of walking as a disciple, right? And it seems that sometimes being faithful can be a matter of convenience, right? So when you are in a situation where you are around like-minded people, maybe you're attending church, you're with a group of friends that all believe the same things as you, and I think this can go for things other than being faithful as well. Good morning, Stacy. How are you? This idea of your responsibility can go be outside of faith. So in this matter of convenience, it's easy to be faithful when you're around like-minded people, when you are in a safe space like in church or something. Maybe even if something is said that kind of strikes a nerve in you that is really important to you, it can be easy to express your faith at those times, right? So even if you're in, I just looked at the clock, it's 11:11. So even if you're in like a small group of people that maybe are having a debate about something regarding faith, spirituality, religion, anything like that, it can be easier in those times to stand up for what you believe in, right? As opposed to it being more difficult if you are in a situation where you are being singled out. Yeah. If you're being singled out, or even if you're not really sure what you believe in, right? Then it can be a little bit more difficult to be faithful. If you are in a larger group of people where maybe you feel like you're being persecuted against, then it can be more difficult to be faithful in those times. And I know personally, I have, been in those situations. And sometimes it can make you question what you believe in, right? Depending upon how harsh maybe the other people are being towards you. So this is why it's so important to hold that sense of responsibility. You are responsible for walking as a disciple. So if anybody ever questions, I don't know what I'm here for, that's what you're here for. Okay? And there are other things that you can find that are your gifts and your talents for you to be good at. But overall, we are here to walk as disciples and we are here to spread love. And that's it, right? That's it. And you could sit here and name a million, Bible verses or things that could support that, but in the end, that's really what we're here for. Okay, we are supposed to be following the Gospels and walking as disciples and, loving your neighbor as yourself. Jesus tells us to love one another as I have loved you. And that is exactly what we're here for. So Jesus was a responsible person of faith, and that is our job, to be responsible, and not just when it's convenient for us, And I think that those times can be the most hardest, when we are maybe not sure, we're around people that really don't believe the same things as us, because when it's more difficult, then it's a true test, right? It is a true test of your faith. So are you going to follow and walk as a disciple, or are you going to shy away because it's just easier, right? Maybe you don't feel comfortable standing up for yourself. You don't want to be the only one that, believes this stuff, right? And it can be really easy to get caught up in that, right? Sometimes other people can be really persuasive in wanting you to believe something else. And I'm not saying to not, to just disregard what other people say. You can listen to other people. But it's important for you to know really what you stand for, right? And that is a big piece of being responsible, knowing what you stand up for and having the strength to do that, right? So I think too that, purposefully being responsible, this is so important too. purposefully being responsible will help you to get into that spiritual mindset that we talk about, right? So the awareness that God is guiding you and is testing you at all times, right? So if you are purposefully walking through life and being responsible, then this will help you with that mindset shift. Okay. And this mindset will allow you to bring more love into your life, because that's what you're doing. You're loving, right? So it's going to be a lot easier for that love to come into your life. And what better love to know that you are walking as a disciple, right? And the thing is that Jesus knows your intent of your walk, right? And this is kind of going to bring us into the second part of what we're going to talk about. But, having such a genuine intent is really going to bring God into your life to the fullest. And it's really going to bring that love into your life to the fullest. But it really, having that intent behind it is very, very important. Okay? So, with that genuine intent, your prayers will be answered when you're ready for them. Okay? We talk about this a lot. It's not when you want things to happen, it's when God says it's supposed to happen. He always hears you. Okay? He hears you the first time and he hears you the millionth time. But if it is the millionth time that you're asking for something and you haven't received it yet, it's not because you're not going to get it at all. It's just because it isn't time. And if you're feeling like that, it's important to notice, are you being a responsible person of faith? Are you being tested in the same way over and over and over again? Because if you are, there is something that you're not learning from it. Okay? There's something that you're still not quite getting. And until you get that, maybe God doesn't think that you're ready for it until you understand that lesson. Okay, so keep that in mind. It always makes me so sad for people, to think that God isn't hearing your prayers, because that's never the case. Never the case. He always hears your prayers. But if he's not answering them, it's because there's still something that you have to learn to kind of like go to the next level and receive what you're asking for. Okay, so keep that in mind. So, this whole mindset shift, this is what I will teach you. Okay, I will teach you how to use this mindset shift in your daily life to bring that love in. All right, that is my goal for all of you. Okay, so kind of going back to the piece of intent and how God always knows your intent, right? He always knows your motive. And that is so, so important in, your prayers being answered and, kind of getting the things you want. I don't really like to say it like that, but, so your motive. So being fully faithful, right, will lead you to, your prayers being answered in due time, in God's time, not in your time. So you will be fully rewarded for being faithful. You will, as that passage says, you will be given the joy and you will be given more responsibility, right? When you can handle it. And you will be given the joy of coming into his kingdom. That is what he teaches us. But like I said, God knows your motives, okay? So, and your motives go hand in hand with your responsibility. So why are you being faithful, right? That is the question, okay? And if you kind of look at that question, I know I've had times where I needed to seriously evaluate things because I was thinking too much of, the ego piece, right? It was too much ego. Well, this is what I want because I'm ready for it and I want it now, right? And my motive wasn't where it needed to be, okay? My motive was because I want it, right? And that's not coming from a place of walking as a disciple, right? So why are you being faithful? Are you being faithful just so you can get your prayers answered? Are you being faithful maybe because somebody else is telling you that this is what you have to do, right? Are you being persuaded into this in some way? Are you trying to get something? Is that why you're doing certain things, or you're being nice to people just so you can get something out of it, right? So, and we have to be honest with ourselves when we're answering these questions, okay? Because nobody wants to say, yeah, I'm going to church so, I can get this from God. Nobody really wants to admit that, but I know there have been times that, I could honestly say that, and these are just things that we have to look at. We have to evaluate these things, and you must be honest with yourself when it comes to this, because if you're not, then you're never going to, to learn that lesson, to advance spiritually as you want to. And this too is all about that spiritual mindset. Why are you doing things? What is the intent behind your actions? And if something isn't working for you and you keep doing it, what are you getting out of that? Right? What are you getting out of that? And sometimes we do things out of, this is our comfort zone. Even though our comfort zone may be very uncomfortable, but we have been there for so long and we know it so well, it's hard for us to move outside of that, right? So, are you doing certain things because you feel guilty about something? Maybe something happened and you feel that if you go to church every Sunday for 5 years, it'll be all hunky-dory and that's all you need to do, right? But going to church, see, this is the thing, and I don't mean to sound harsh when I say this, but going to church really doesn't mean anything if you're still going to walk around and be like a nasty, miserable person. It really doesn't. So you're at church so that you can be around like-minded people, so that you can learn. Believe it or not, we're actually supposed to listen to Father when we're there, and not just space out and think about what we have to do after church. But, what can you learn from what he's saying, and how can you take what he's saying and implement that in your life throughout the next week? That's what following the gospel is all about. And these are hard things to do. I'm not saying that I do these things perfectly, it's just what I've learned. Yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, there's no point in going to church and then living a miserable life, for the rest of the week. There's no point in that, right? You might as well just stay home. So, and this is why when you are at church and if you feel that something is resonating with you, try your best to remember that and then go home and research that yourself, because that is, you're being prompted to, say, hey, I think that's something that I need to work on, right? Hey, Dana. So keep that in mind, okay? And, this has to do with your motive as well, right? What is your motive for going to church? Why do you go there? Because it's what you're supposed to do, right? I mean, I'll bet a lot of people can say that, right? We're supposed to go to church, right? So think about those things. Think about your intent behind your actions. And like I said, this doesn't have to do just with your faith, but with anything that's going on. Why are you doing what you do? And that will really tell you a lot about yourself. So, another thing, are you acting in a certain way? Are you acting faithful so you can get, brownie points against your karma or something like that? I hear that a lot too. I'm doing this so I can, butter up the universe and get what I want in the end, right? That's not the way it works. That's not the way that it works. So, or you could, think those things. And it's okay right now if you do. I've been there, I am still there. I'm still working on this, but it's the awareness piece, right? Be aware of it and make a purposeful choice to change it, okay? So, do you have some kind of weird intent behind what you're doing? Or are you genuinely trying to have a closer relationship with God? Is that what you're doing? Are you, are you trying to listen to and live through the gospel? Right? Are you trying to, really help yourself and help other people with what you have learned? You know, are you looking at past experiences of when you have been very faithful and then you have been rewarded? Are you taking that into consideration and using that in your life now? So your motive really has so much to do with you being a responsible person of faith. So it's really all very intertwined. And, you'll know deep inside what your motives are. Only you will know. And like I said, you have to be honest with yourself, because that's the only way that you'll change. So your motives will help you to see your values and your priorities. Okay? Honest communication with yourself will help you see your values and your priorities and what you want to be a priority in your life. What are the standards that you have for yourself regarding your faith, right? And, if your motive is not one of faith, then you're able to make that decision. And you don't have to beat yourself up or judge yourself because of it. Like I said, that's the ego piece coming in. Okay, it really is. That is the ego piece coming in. So, ego saying, what can I do to get what I want? Right? That's the ego. What can I do to get what I want in life? Versus spiritual mindset, what can I do to help God? And then with that help, he already knows what you want. Okay? He already knows. So what can you do to help God and walk in his likeness and then be rewarded from him, and probably be rewarded way more than anything you even did ask for? So keep these things in mind. And like I said, your motive will give you a clear understanding of where your spiritual mindset is. Okay? It will give you a clear understanding. And that is my job, to help you to kind of evaluate that and understand where that's coming from, and to make a choice and learn how to push that ego aside and to bring in that spiritual mindset. That's my job, and that's what I teach people, okay, on how to change that mindset to bring love into your life and to want to, right? Because I know sometimes we don't want to. Sometimes it's easier to just stay in our uncomfortable comfort zone because it's just routine and it's what we know. And that can just be easier. But if you really want to change, if you really want to, transform your life into what you want, then I can help you with that. Okay? So, wouldn't it be nice to be able to have a clear understanding of what you want? Wouldn't it be nice to, know why you want to help God, or maybe figure out why you don't right now? And wouldn't it be nice to have true patience, to really understand that you will be rewarded when God knows that you're ready, right? It would. So this is the mindset that I will teach you, okay? This is the mindset that I will teach you to have every day, so that you can bring those answers into your life and you can have that peace of mind. And I do that not only with the scripture, but bringing in that piece of crystal energy to get you even more energetically aligned to this intention and to be able to transform your life. So that's what I do. That's what I do in my coaching. So I know this was like a lot of information, but like I said, these were the two things that really, really stood out for me. This idea of being a responsible person of faith and understanding what your true motive is behind your behavior and understanding why you want to be a responsible person of faith. Okay? So that's kind of in a nutshell, what I got from this card today. And, I would love to hear more about what you guys think about this, what you got from this. And tomorrow we're going to dig a little bit deeper Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's just, it just things that we need to think about, right? Things that we should be thinking about. So, if anybody, has any other thoughts about this, or you want to chat about this later, you have any questions, I have an open door policy. So, you can, if you don't feel comfortable sharing your questions in the group itself, you can PM me. That's not a problem at all. I'm here to help you guys. Okay. So, like I said, we're going to dig into this a little bit deeper tomorrow, and then Wednesday and Thursday we'll kind of do something a little bit different. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching and your participation. Open door policy just means that, if you have questions about something, you can email me or PM me anytime. Okay, I'm not like real strict about, you can only ask me questions during my times of business. You can email me at any time. That's just what it means. Okay, so once again, I want to thank you guys so much for your participation. Okay, you guys have been fabulous, and if you have any other questions, just let me know. Okay, like I said, you can PM me at the Spiritual Safe House on Facebook, or you can email me through my website, thespiritualsafehouse.com. All right, I will talk to you guys a little later. Okay, bye.